and certainly a place where I felt like I fit. I went about wrestling 7th, 8th, 9th grade, all through high school. It was a 3-year program in high school. Won the district meet by the time I got out of junior high school. I think I lost 3 matches that year, and then started all over again in high school. Trying to find my place in the team, wrestled off several times. Finally, my junior year, made varsity, but I had to go all the way up to 178. I couldn't make the team at 148, 158, or 168. I wrestled off at all those weights. I found my spot at 178 finally. 20 pounds over my weight class. I had to drink water to make sure I was within the 20-pound limit to be able to wrestle at 178. I still qualified for state as an alternate. Didn't actually need to go wrestle. And then that next year, my senior year, I made the varsity squad. I was the best guy in my weight class, and eventually won the state championship. And I set that goal that year. I was working, paid for my car insurance, and put gas in my car, working at the grocery store that my mom worked at. She was a meat wrapper, I was a box boy. That's when we made ends meet. And I talked to my mom, I said, Mom, look, I'm gonna be a state champion this year in wrestling. She's like, oh, how are you gonna do that? So I laid it out for her. I drew a map. And that's what you need to do. I drew that map, that was in September of that year, my senior year, 1981, 81. I'm 60 years old now. She said, okay, well, I'll let you, take time off your job, I'll pay for your car insurance and your gas, and we did about executing that plan to win that state championship. Now, there was no guarantee that's how it was going to go, but I set that plan, and each week, each month, I made sure I was meeting those benchmarks, meeting those things that I had set forth that I believed were going to put me in a position to win that state championship. And lo and behold, state championship came around in February, and I made the finals, and I ended up winning my first state title. So there was the blueprint for the rest of my life and how things were going to go. Figure out what I was passionate about, because at the end of the day, it boils down to passion. Because these are not easy things to do. Certainly an individual combative sport is not an easy thing to do. Walk out in front of all your peers in the compulsory uniform for that sport, and you may or may not win, but just wearing the uniform was tough enough. There was courage involved in that. What did Aristotle say? First of all, human virtues is courage, because without courage, none of the others happen. They don't exist. You have to have that courage to walk out there.
Fact.
And know that you did the work. This is the sport where you're going to get out of it exactly what you put into it. If you're slacking, if you're not doing your drilling, if you're not cutting weight properly, if you're not putting all your ducks in a row and being a student of the game, chances are you put yourself in a position where you're going to get embarrassed in front of everybody on the center of that mat. That's how life works too. That's why it's so important for all of you athletes in here that you're playing and you're on that field and you're putting it out there and you're recognizing that the work you put in practice is exactly what you're going to get out of that experience. There's no guarantee you're going to win, but you're prepared the best you know how. And I can walk away from that having lost if I know I did everything I know how to do to win, if that makes sense to you. You're not going to win all the time. That's how life is. That's why this is important. You're going to get knocked on your ass. And how you respond to that is exactly how life is going to go for you. No escaping pain, sorrow, all those things. Everybody deals with that. Through pain comes wisdom. You don't make those stupid mistakes again. Pay attention. Be a student of the game. You emulate those guys that are doing the things that you want to do. I wanted to be an Olympic champion. I never made that goal. Made the national team, won the nationals 4 different times, made the world team, placed 9th at the world championships, but I wanted to be on that podium. I wanted that gold medal. And I was so uptight because I lost in the NCAA finals twice. I lost in the Olympic trials, especially in 92 and 96. In the final match, to make that dream come true, I managed to lose those matches. Now, I could have sacked up my bats and retired and been done, but that's not who I am. That's not the kind of character that an individual combative sport like wrestling breeds. You don't give up like that. As David Goggins said, you don't quit when you're tired, you quit when you're done. So, picking yourself up, reevaluating, what did I do wrong? You didn't watch any of those fights or matches that I lost or that I won, Because of what? I got the outcome I was looking for. Why do I need to watch that? Now, I probably still made mistakes, and there are probably still things I can learn from that win, but I can guarantee you I watched every single one of those matches, and every single one of those fights I lost. Because that's where I was going to get better. That's where my opportunity to learn and figure out what my mistakes were, and go back and reset and do the work, and come back and be better. Not only a better athlete from that experience, but a better human from that experience at the end of the day. And that's a particular mindset, and that comes first of all from what? That passion. I had a passion for wrestling. I found the thing that seemed to make me tick. So I was therefore willing to make those sacrifices. Draw that map, set that goal. It says, it comes off the tongue and lips very easily. I'm going to be a state champion. Any one of you sitting out there can say that right now. That rolls off the tongue very easily. But how are you actually going to get there? From where we're at right now to standing up at the top of that podium come February when the championships happen. You better have drawn a map, a plan. You want to share that with your coach, share that with your grandma, with your mom, that person that's closest to you. Because when you start to stray from that plan, they're the ones that are going to yank you. Say, hey, I thought you were going to be a state champ. Well, is that really going to help you? Achieve that goal and get where you want to be? Probably not. If they're calling you out on it. Share it with somebody close. It's going to help you stay on track. Somebody you trust. All right? So that's goal setting. Setting that plan, putting that plan in motion, and sticking to that plan to achieve that goal. Does that mean you're going to win the state championship? There's no guarantee of that. But you can walk away if you come up short knowing that you did everything you know how to do to be successful there. And in that loss is your opportunity to become better, to be a better athlete, to be a better human at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yes.
If you get caught up in the winning and the losing, that's going to take care of itself. Things happen. You make mistakes. Your opponent gets lucky once in a while. That's just the way life is. That's the way sports are, for sure. And why sports are so important. They're a microcosm of what we're going to embrace and what we're going to endure as humans on this planet. But I think it's very, very important. Mindset. Recognizing that so much of what we do in athletics is physical, but so much of success comes right here between your ears. How many people have that internal dialogue? I call him my crazy roommate. That voice in your head. That voice is probably talking to you right now. What the hell is this guy talking about? He's a crazy son of a bitch. Right? But you have to recognize that you control that internal dialogue. It does not control you. So many times we're a slave to that voice, and especially when the pressure gets turned up. And I'm staring at an opponent next Saturday, and I got to make weight on Friday. And then that what ifs, and that voice starts chatting, wow, your thighs are skinny, and you might not make weight. What if that guy knocks you out? And all these things start going on with this crazy roommate that talks in your head. And you can react to that, and then you'll be out running sprints. Oh, I don't want to get tired, so I better run some more sprints. And then wonder why on Saturday night you're flat, and you don't have your legs under you. Because you let that crazy roommate talk you into doing something that wasn't part of the plan, that you believed was going to put you in a position to win, to be successful. But recognizing that you control that crazy roommate, that voice in your head, it does not control you. So how do I control that? You start out by creating affirmations. What's your goal? What you think makes you that unique athlete? It keeps you on track, it keeps you on task, and doing the things that you train to do. Write those on 3x5 cards. Put them on your mirror where you brush your teeth every morning and every night. Put them in your gym locker. Put them on the dash of your car. When you see it every morning when you're driving to practice or driving to school, put it in your gym bag. And when that crazy roommate starts chattering and undermining your confidence, stop and start reciting those affirmations, those things that are going to put you on track and keep you in the fight. Eventually, after a while, you don't need the 3x5 cards anymore. Your subconscious brain learns those affirmations. And now the same thing that's coming out of your mouth is going on in your head. That internal dialogue is in line, and it's saying the same things, and the same goals, and the same affirmations that you so easily rolled off your tongue when you said, I want to be a state champion. Now you're forced to be reckoned with, because your crazy roommate is saying the same things that you're saying, your conscious voice. And you're going to be very, very tough to deal with. practicing those mental skills. That's a mental skill, to be able to control that internal dialogue and that crazy roommate. Another very important mental skill, visualization. Visualize success. Just like you watch a movie. We can do a little exercise right now. Y'all close your eyes. Go ahead, close your eyes. I want you to picture in your mind's eye a lemon. I think you all know what a lemon looks like. Waxy yellow skin, nubs on the end. You can see the little pits in the skin. Now, I want you to see your hand coming in with a knife and slicing that lemon in half. You see the two halves separate. You can see the segments of the lemon, the clear yellow juice spreading out on the counter, some pulp. You start to smell that lemon. All right? Open your eyes. How many people's mouths started to pucker? You see any lemons in here? Anywhere? You had a physical response to that picture that you just put in your head. It's a very powerful thing. So when I got a big match or a big fight facing me, I've watched that fight happen hundreds of times before I ever walked out of that tunnel and up into that cage or however.
Visualize success.
I saw that fight happen a million different ways. Everything but the kitchen sink thrown at me with one common denominator. What do you think that common denominator is? I got my hand raised at the end of it. No matter how that fight went, I endured all of that, I visualized all that, and I had a physical response to those pictures I put in my head, just like that lemon. So I'm prepared for whatever happens when I walk out into that cage. I've already seen it. I've already prepared myself, both mentally and physically, for how that's going to go, and prepared myself for what? Victory.
Victory.
Again, that's a mental skill. Visualization exercise. I used to do that at night, especially when the temperature starts rising, the pressure starts turning up, and that little voice wants to start chattering. That's when that training, that mental skills training really comes to the forefront. I can stay on task, have faith in my plan, and what got me in those matches and through those positions to be in a chance to win that title and step up on that podium. So I have to have confidence in that, stay on task, and don't let that crazy roommate get me off track, get me going somewhere else. Rely on that plan. Rely on and believe in those visualizations, those images that I put in my head. Framing is another thing. So many people ask me as I was transitioning from wrestling to fighting, oh man, what do you get more nervous for, a fight or a wrestling match? And I thought, man, that's a really interesting question. Because I lost to the NCAA finals twice, and the Olympic trials twice, actually 4 times for the Olympic trials, but twice when I was really the number 1 guy, I probably should have made those teams. I was so uptight about that next wrestling match and chasing that perfection, chasing that perfect match, winning that gold medal, that I was uptight. I wasn't having fun anymore. All the little things I was learning in wrestling were small, little incremental things, adjustment to your grip, how you're approaching things. Right? Putting the right frame around those situations was hugely important. I was nervous for these wrestling matches. What do you say when you're nervous? Physical, your head drops, you're thinking something bad is going to happen. There's nothing bad going to happen. If the worst thing that ever happens to me is I lose a wrestling match or a fight, I'm doing pretty damn good. So keep it in perspective. The people that really matter in my life aren't going anywhere. My family, my good friends. They don't care whether I win or lose. They just want to see me chase my passion with everything that I have. We take that winning and losing part off the table. That's only going to cause problems for you. You go out there and pursue that goal, that passion with everything that you have in your body. And at the end of the day, no matter what that outcome is, you can walk away knowing you did everything you know how to do. And you're going to learn in those opportunities that you lost. You came up short. That's your opportunity to reevaluate and get back on track. Trials and tribulations through the refiner's fire. I want that heat. Bring it. Give me your best game. That's only going to make me work harder and make me better. I put the right frame around those circumstances. I wasn't nervous, I was excited. People thought I was a psychotic because I walked out of that tunnel smiling. and enjoying that walk and getting ready to go out there in front of everybody and show everybody what I've been training that whole camp to do. That was my opportunity. So why would I be nervous about that? There's nothing bad that was going to happen, even if I lost the fight or the match. But putting that proper frame around it frees me up, knowing that my friends and family are not going anywhere, whether I win or lose. Fans are fickle. You're only as good as your last fight or your last match. You can't buy into the newspaper clippings. You can't buy into the fanfare and all that other stuff because it's fleeting. It's going to come and go. At the end of the day, you know what your passion is and what you're capable of doing. Capable and willingness, two different things. Lots of us are capable of doing lots of things, but are you willing to do the work and put yourself out there? Or risk it? Those are questions you have to ask yourself. Putting the proper frame around that. I'm never nervous about a competition. I'm excited. Physically, just changing that frame from nervousness to excitement, everything changes. I'm smiling. I'm happy to be there. I'm confident. I know I've done the work. Now I walk out of that tunnel with a completely different attitude just by changing that frame around the same exact circumstance. This was something I learned through sports psychologists that we use for the national team in wrestling. I was losing matches by 1 or 2 points. Kept getting called for passivity, especially in Greco at the highest level. Guys are evenly matched. So referees and judges are going to make a call. Now I can let that call, him calling me for passivity, get in my head and make me irritated because I didn't believe I was being passive. I was trying to score just like that guy was. But the truth is, politics play into everything. You're going to call somebody. So I couldn't allow that call of passivity to continue to affect me emotionally. Now I get down in the parterre position and I'm supposed to be ready to defend this guy's attack, and I'm still pissed off that they called me for passivity. I'm thinking the wrong thing. Instead of thinking, yeah, come on, I'm going to beat you here too. Go ahead, give me your best shot, give me your best gut wrench, your best lift. I'm going to beat you here too, and I'm going to get the passivity call next, and I'm scoring on your butt. Changing that frame around the exact same swing, I stopped losing those matches simply by changing that attitude, that frame around that exact situation. Instead of letting that referee get in my head and make me irritated that he called me for passivity, no, bring it. Bring me your best shot. You and the referee aren't going to beat me. It's not going to happen. Simply change that frame. Does that make sense? It's a powerful thing. Visualization, talk about that. Controlling your internal dialogue. Setting that goal, drawing that map. Daily, weekly, monthly goals that you're going to achieve. And don't forget to enjoy and savor each one of those steps along the way, because they mean something. They're important. You're on the right track. You're doing the right things. Those are things to be celebrated. It's easy to look way out there at the state championship and forget about all those things you accomplished that you drew out on that map to get there. Don't forget about those things. That's enjoying the journey. Because 9 times out of 10, we say we want to get there and we forget that we enjoyed all those steps along the way, all those competitions, all those matches that sharpened those tools that put me in that state championship. But don't forget to enjoy the journey. Frame it properly. Recognize that the people that really matter in your life aren't going anywhere. Don't put all this extra pressure on yourself. Keep it as simple as possible, because it's already complicated enough. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you're struggling with? Competing? And here's the thing. Those same mental skills that you develop through athletics apply to the rest of your life. And I wished I figured that out a little sooner. I might have saved myself a divorce or 2. That's the truth of the matter. But they apply to everything you do. You got to go talk to your boss about getting a raise. You can visualize that conversation and see that going every which way with that one common denominator. You get that raise at the end of the conversation. You may push back. They may ask you a ton of questions. You can visualize that conversation going a million different ways. But that success at the end is always the common denominator. Prepare yourself to be successful. Prepare yourself to win. Visualize that. Extremely powerful. And not just for athletics, for the rest of your life as well. Open up. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Randy, when you fought Brock Lesnar, You were older, a lot older, and a lot smaller.
Yeah.
What was your mindset going in there? How did you think you could beat him?
I believed I could make him work harder than he wanted to work, and at the end of the day, we're both wrestlers. We both had strong wrestling backgrounds. I'd been fighting longer than he was, so I felt like I had built up the other skills, the striking skills, the submission skills. I think if he hadn't grabbed the fence in the first round, it might have been a different night. Would have liked to have seen how he reacted when he hit the deck and had to fight off of his back. I know that I could have survived there, and I've been there in some other big matches against some other good wrestlers. Kevin Randall took me down the first and the second round. But I'd been working on my jiu-jitsu and fighting off my back because I knew it was potential, especially if I faced another wrestler. I had to shore up that part of my game and be able to survive those situations. Almost on mark in the second. I took him down in the third. The dying cockroach let me climb right to mount and the fight was over. Well, I had done my homework and prepared for the possibility that he might take me down. He had not done that homework and not prepared for that possibility that I might take him down. I believed I could take Lesnar down. I believed I could make Lesnar move his feet and work more than he wanted to work. I think I was on my way to getting there. And he was a lot longer than he looks. He's so big and thick. You don't realize he's got a 96-inch reach. And that fist just kept coming. And hit me right behind the ear, flashed me, and then as soon as my butt hit the deck, I woke up. I knew where I was at, but then this monster comes down on top of me, and the light of the sun went away. Yeah, I just didn't get out from underneath it, but I believe I could beat him for sure.
Dramatic break.
I was on my way to beat him. He was a good fight though. He's a big athletic guy, 290 pounds.
You also beat a guy that was a champion boxer that they thought boxers could compete with UFC.
Yeah, well, that's been a common comparison since I started fighting in '97 was boxing versus MMA. All the boxers were critiquing our striking, not recognizing that they're apples and oranges in many, many ways. Striking changes when a guy can take you down, when a guy can kick you, when a guy can hang on to you and elbow you or punch you. It's a whole different sport. So, and most boxers don't recognize that. I'm never going to stand with a narrow target like this. I'm going to get this lead leg kicked to hell. And I'm easy to take down. There's no way I can sprawl. For boxing, it's great. But for MMA, there's no way I can check and kick and no way I can sprawl and keep this guy from taking me down. It completely changes striking. Most boxers don't recognize that. James Stoney was a 6-time world champion, and he thought he was going to come out and knock me out. I was like, how much real MMA is this guy going to learn in 4 months? That he can't stop a double leg, and I'm sure he can't stop a low single. So I dusted off the old low single. Figured if he was going to be able to learn anything, it would be to throw a knee or throw an uppercut, because he knew I wasn't going to be stupid enough to stand and trade with him. He's a great boxer. My boxing was proficient enough to make guys wrestle. That was my only goal. Be able to protect the beam, my head, long enough to be able to get my hands on somebody and make them wrestle. Make them wrestle me, rather. So that was, and he hadn't done that. I think that's why I got the nod. They gave Chuck Liddell that fight. Chuck probably would have stood up with him and tried to test his kickboxing and boxing skills. Might not have been a great night for MMA. I think they knew what I was going to do, take his butt down and make him play MMA. I wasn't going to play with boxing with him. We found out how much MMA he learned in about a minute and 42 seconds. Not very much. Yes, sir.
Before you prepared for a match or a fight, what was the routine, mental or music or physical? What was kind of like your 30-minute prep before you went out?
Yeah, and I think that's an important question. You have to have a warm-up routine that both physically and mentally puts you in that place to go out and do your job and do what you're trying to do. You use that routine every single day when you warm up and practice. And you should have a long routine when you have all the time in the world to get ready and know when you're over-energized or under-energized. You don't want to spend too much energy and you warm up and then you're flat when you go out and maybe compete, you need your legs under you. You have to find that sweet spot. And you do it every single day of practice. You go through a warm-up ritual, running around the mat, tumbling, drilling, putting yourself in that right headspace physically and mentally to go out there and execute what technique and tactics you prepare to solve that problem. Fighting and wrestling is problem solving at its finest. Individual. Don't have 10 other guys that I can blame and say, well, that guy dropped the ball. No. You're looking at it. And those team sports really are the same way. I work with a lot of pro football players, the same thing. It's all about mindset. It's all about recognizing that guy on the other side of the line you're keying off of every play. And you better have the worst game of football he's ever had, or you're not doing your damn job. And they say that to an NFL player, and their eyes get about as big as saucers. But 10 weeks was my sweet spot. I tried 12-week camps, they were a little too long. As I got older, camp shortened a little bit. I got more active near the end of my career, pushing 47 years old. I fought 5 times in that last 18 months. So the camp shortened for about 6 weeks. But 10 weeks was my sweet spot most of my career. I found at 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks out, I was tired of training. I was tired of grinding in the camp, and I knew that meant I was in shape and ready to go fight. Had a massage every week, ate good food, worked with a sports psychologist every week, did visualization exercises every single day going into that competition. Weight training, specific to being able to fight for 25 minutes. Strength and endurance and durability. That's what those strength training was for. It wasn't about beach muscles. It wasn't about how much I could squat or bench press. None of that stuff was going to help me win that fight. It was having the durability and the endurance to be able to push as hard as I needed to push for the full 25 minutes. To break that guy, make that guy quit. That was my job. That was what I mapped out for those 10 weeks. I started on fight night. I went back. This was my last hard workout. 6 days to taper off and get my legs back under me. You feel guilty, and that voice starts chattering as the pressure starts coming to compete. And I have to stay with the plan. Otherwise, I'll listen to that voice and I'll be out running sprints in the parking lot when I should have had confidence that my conditioning was good. I had a good plan. So why would I let that voice undermine me that way? Chiropractor, once a week. Those were all modalities that were going to help me recover. Because as important as the hard work I was putting in the cage and on the mat were every day, that rest and recovery was just as important to me being able to walk out that tunnel and up those 4 steps on fight night and perform the way I know I'm capable of performing. So there's a very strict balance there in overtraining and undertraining and getting it right, letting your body recover, putting the right food and water in that body so it's going to function. You're trying to run a Ferrari, you better put good stuff in it. Right? Well, all those things allowed me and gave me the confidence to go out there and compete on fight night and let the chips fall where they may. So plan that camp out, how to solve that problem, what tools, where did he study film? Oldest fight to newest fight. Where did he lose? Where did he win? Where did he seem to like to be and score? Where did he seem to not like to be? And then having real people in your corner that are going to be honest and tell you how they see us matching together. Not blow smoke up behind them and speak in rosy pastels all the time. That's not honest. I wouldn't be honest with myself, and I don't need my corner guys to act that way either. Tell me the truth. That's the only way we're going to solve this problem. And figure out how to put ourselves in the best position to solve the problem.
Like constructive criticism?
Constructive criticism. Yeah, our egos are fragile. I'm not saying jump all over me, but be honest. Tell me the honest assessment of what you think and what tools we need to sharpen to deal with this guy and putting ourselves in the best position to win. That's what that 10-week camp was all about. That answers the question. Yes, sir.
Talking about mindset, like how you mentioned earlier, and getting calls that are not your way and stuff like that. Your trilogy with Victor Belfort, the second one was a doctor stoppage.
Yeah.
How was your mindset, and what did you change?
Well, that was such a unique circumstance, and that was the first time that the Zuffa, the UFC, the company that ever got behind me, was supernatural. They called that fight that weekend. It was the rematch with Victor Belfort. It was on Super Bowl weekend in Las Vegas, which is a huge weekend. 25 seconds into the fight, I had a plan. I knew how to beat him. I slipped his punch. Got to the clinch, which is exactly where I wanted to be. I knew I could take the gas out of him by attaching myself to him, executing a dirty boxing, put him on his back, put him at the base of that barrier, and just beat him up. As I slipped that first punch, the corner of his glove, right on his pinky, grazed my eyelid and sliced my eyelid from top to bottom. But the eye just slammed shut. No blood, no nothing. I couldn't figure it out. So in the clinch, I got exactly where I needed to be, and I'm like, what the heck, my eye won't open. And John sees me struggling to figure out what's going on. There was no blood, nothing. So he stops the fight wisely. Obviously, I'm glad John was refereeing. And the doctor comes in and just pulls my eye open like that, and there comes all the blood from this laceration across the windshield wiper to your eyes, basically, the eyelid.
Wow.
Well, and there was nothing I could do with that. From that point forward, they changed the glove. They rolled that raw seam in and stitched it down. That's what sliced it. So it's just one of those fluke things. There was no, nothing I could do. He won fair and square. It was a legal punch. He didn't really hit me. He grazed me with the corner of that glove, but that was the end of the fight. So they forced an automatic rematch 90 days later. And it was a horrible fight for him. His sister had just been abducted. They were holding her hostage, expecting him to pay a ransom to get his sister back. This is something that happens in Brazil and some of these other countries. But so it was a horrible fight for him, and he came out victorious. So good for him. Didn't go so well the third fight, but I didn't have to change anything in my mindset. I knew I'd done everything, got me exactly where I wanted to be. It was just one of those fluke things that happens in fighting, in sports, in life. It's just how it works. So I was happy that they wanted us to do the triple, do the rematch and the road match, and obviously I prepared exactly the same way. And what was funny about the third fight was I had a sponsor, HCK, Howard's Combat Kimonos. And normally I always wore his red shorts. They were my favorite. I love to fight in red. It's aggressive, mental color. I didn't like blue or any of those other colors. I liked red. And he called me up before that third fight. He said, hey Randy, you know you got Belfort coming up again. I come out with a new color. It's white with red stitching where you wear the white shorts. And I'm like, okay, I'll wear the white shorts. Howard, go for it. Of course, I cut him 3 times in that fight. By the end of the second round, my shorts were now pink from his blood. And Howard calls me on Monday because please tell me you didn't wash those shorts. I'm like, no, Howard, I didn't wash the shorts. You can have it. So I gave those shorts to my sponsor, to Howard. That might be how I thought the second one was going to go without the cut. And got exactly where I wanted to go, put him on the deck, and hovered over him and made him pay. And we're not. Yes, sir.
What are you working on now on your training?
Mostly just training to stay fit, stay in shape. I can't walk onto a set with a guy like Sylvester Stallone at 77 years old and still yoked and ripped. And walk in there with Dunlops picking the lint out of your brother, but this is not going to fly. And it keeps me sane. I like to train anyway. I can't do a lot of grappling anymore. I've worn out the discs in my neck, which is what led me to retire from fighting in the first place. And I was getting a little long in the tooth anyway, let's be honest. 47, it was long enough. So, yeah, that was pretty much it.
Randy, one more question.
When you're in the middle of a match and that voice in your head is winning, what is your strategy?
Have that reset. Either that affirmation that you used on those 3x5 cards, that tell that voice to stop. Literally, stop! And then start reciting those affirmations. And in competition, you want to have that reset word too. You get caught in a takedown in a match, now you're frustrated, things aren't going your way, momentum's starting to go your opponent's way. Have that phrase that your coach knows to reset you. Sometimes it's as simple as move your feet, breathe. Keep breathing, move your feet, stay focused. Make first contact. Those are all affirmations that get you back in the fight, back engaged in winning the match and controlling the tempo. So having that reset phrase, and shut that voice off with stop, and then start regurgitating those affirmations until he gets in line and start saying the same thing. But that reset, especially in a fight, boxers have this, fighters, MMA fighters, wrestling, you get caught at the bridge, get off the back, now you're down by 5 points. Does that mean the match is over? I hope not. Right? use that reset phrase and go back to being offensive and put yourself in a position to score and win. So that reset, I get caught, you know, like Brock, caught me with that good shot, set me on my butt. And you get a chance to reset, but normally you have a reset phrase. Your coach, your side of the cornerman, they know that. Your coach should know that. Something's not going your way, you're not breathing. You look like you're getting tired or getting frustrated, and you use that reset. Get that reset. You know what that reset is for video games. Only in real life, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to start over. You got to stay in it and fight through it. There's a difference there. Does that make sense? Yeah. On what? I think Khabib's very talented. We're seeing a lot of talent come out of Dagestan. It's a very rough part of Russia, and that's their ticket out of their living in the circumstances that they're living in. Now they're very proud of their country, and I don't blame them for being very proud of their country, but they also love to live somewhere else because it's not very nice there. So that athleticism, they start, a lot of those kids started wrestling at 2 and 3 years old. Khabib started wrestling at 3. Wrestling bears and all kinds of crazy stuff. But he's amazingly talented, and there's a ton of great Dagestanis that are very good at wrestling, and very good at competing in individual combative sport, for sure. I met Khabib, he's a nice guy, a genuine person. Try to reserve, you know, certainly reserve comment on somebody until at least shook their hand and looked them right in the eye. And he's one I've shook his hand and put on the map a little bit. He's very, very good. I like the way he represented himself. I don't know why he waited until after the fight to blow up at Connor's guys who had insulted his religion and insulted his family. I think he took something away from himself in the glorious performance that he had in beating Conor McGregor that night. And his priorities were a little off. At the presser, if he'd gone off there and they were insulting him and his religion and his family, I would have understood that. But you can never let somebody get under your skin that way and play that psychological game. What is Conor McGregor trying to do in it? He's trying to make Khabib think about anything he can other than how to go out and tactically and technically beat him. Are you going to play that game with him? Never. I'm not going to let Tito Ortiz get under my skin and insult me so that I'm mad now. Because an angry fighter or an angry wrestler is a reckless, bad wrestler. You need to keep your composure. Smooth, calm, composed, intense. Can you be composed and intense at the same time? Yeah, I think you can. But most people don't realize how those two go together. But you have to stay composed, calm, cool, collected. But that intensity is exactly your best friend. You've got to have the conditioning to be able to maintain that intensity as long as you need to maintain that intensity. To force your opponent to quit. That's how you break it. Make it more part of the more sport. Yes, sir.
You think Bo Nickal is getting too much hype?
I think Bo's going to get regulated. You know, he's a very smart guy. You know, he's a fantastic wrestler. I love his style. He's very wide open, and I love that. He's not out there, you know, he's not out there trying to, you know, eke out rounds. He's not playing the Floyd Mayweather game and just worried about that zero. He's willing to go out there and take risks and put himself in harm's way. I think he's going to be very, very good. I think he's eventually going to run into somebody that's going to recognize that maybe doesn't have a submission game yet, and his striking isn't really up to snuff, and try and exploit that. If they have the defensive wrestling to make him stand with them, or they're good enough to take him down and make him fight off of his back, he might have a problem. I haven't seen that yet.
You ever see a lot of the wrestlers abandon their wrestlers in UFC? Why is that?
The times I've seen it, I saw it with, well, Dan Anderson, one of my best friends. He had the H bomb. He started knocking guys out with that right hand. It's certainly a nice way to finish the night and not have to go a full 25 minutes. You know, go out there and throw those heavy leather. Johnny Hendricks was another one. Had some success landing heavy hands, naturally heavy hands, even though his striking wasn't that refined. He had naturally heavy hands. And I think once those guys get a knockout, get the taste of that, getting it over early, and they go out and they try to repeat that instead of dancing with the one that brought them, which was wrestling without him in that situation in the first place. And mixing the two up, that was what worked for me. I did a little head fake and level change. They didn't know if I was shooting or throwing. And that little bit of unknown is something I could use to my favor for sure. use that head fake like it was gonna shoot, throw that overhand right off of that head fake. Because 9 times out of 10, when I get that, their hands started coming down. They were sure that they needed to sprawl, and that right hand would land. But making sure you blend the two together was hugely important. Can't be a one-trick pony. Yes, sir. What's that? John Jones is an amazingly talented athlete. He was a very, very good wrestler, and there's a reason why he didn't get into a Division I college. He's not as diligent and doesn't apply himself the way that he should. And I think to be considered the greatest of all time, which many people think he is, you have to include all of his lifestyle and things outside of the cage, not just how he competes in the cage. And that, in my opinion, eliminates him from the greatest of all time conversation. Because you can't have hit and runs and some of the other stuff that's been on in his personal life, failing drug tests and stuff like that, and then still be considered one of the greatest of all time. It just doesn't fit in my mind. But he's an amazingly talented guy. It's a shame to see a guy with that kind of ability and talent squander it because he can't get out of his own way. Yes, sir.
So are you a big Daniel Cormier fan? You all Oklahoma State guys stick together still?
Absolutely. Yeah, Daniel's a great guy, and I've never seen a better guy that implemented his wrestling in fight situations and articulated that. He's been in my gym and coached and trained with a bunch of my team, and I just think he's amazing. He's a great guy, a great competitor, and a great representative of the sport of wrestling and the sport of mixed martial arts. Yes, sir. All of them, honestly. I have a 19-11 fight record. So, there's I got 6 world championships. Yeah, that means I lost it at least 5 times. And the truth is, I lost it all 6. It was not, again, championship spirit isn't about winning all the time. It's about how you deal with the adversity of the loss. That's a real championship. It's hard. The champion's hard. He's going to pick himself up, make the adjustments, come back and win again. Get back on that horse, so to speak. And, I never really worried about the winning or losing. Try to keep that kind of talk at bay and just go out and do exactly what I'm trained to do. And if there was a flaw in that or I made a mistake in that, which happens, that was something I could adjust and I could address. Again, try to keep it as simple as possible. Because it's already complicated enough, right? Yeah.
One question, guys. So, young man behind the coach, you have a question? And you have a question in here? I saw you raise your hand.
The guy next to him, David.
Oh, okay. Anybody there? No?
Yes. Yeah, that's a real challenge. Because I was an avid skier. And when the ski season, during wrestling season, the coach was like, you can't be out skiing, what if you hurt yourself? You know?
Yes.
I'm like, man, I've been skiing my whole life. I've been skiing since I was 5 years old. I love this sport. I think you have to have active rest opportunities. A wrestling season is long and it's a grind. So coach should probably work in those active rest days. Go in the pool and play, water polo, swim around. You're getting a workout in. You're probably killing some skin fungus, and you're still sweating and working out, but you're off the wrestling mat, and you're getting that mental break from the normal grind. And I think that's important. Having balance in everything is very, very important. You can't be so centric on that one thing that everything else falls to the wayside. You got to still get your grades and go to class. You still have to maintain your family relationships and have that balance in your life. And that's why I think playing other sports, wrestling is amazing. And if you can wrestle in the summer, the fair chance you're going to probably get the college coach's attention, going to Fargo and wrestling in the junior nationals and freestyle and Greco in the spring and summer and all that. But there's nothing wrong with taking part of that year and playing football or playing soccer or playing another sport and having a little balance in your life and enjoying it someday. It doesn't always have to be the grind. Does that make
Skateboarding.
sense? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Alright, so, I was wondering,
Wrestling for sure. A Greco-Roman wrestler, and that's where dirty boxing came from. The first time I fought Vito Belfort, he was literally tearing through everybody. I think he had 4 fights to that point and an aggregate fight time of about 3 minutes. He was literally just blasting through everybody. But I watched him, I studied his tape, I'd seen the change in his physiology over the course of a year, which in my mind was an indicator that there was probably something else going on there. They didn't test that yet. But I looked at that as an advantage. Here's a guy that's so worried about being strong and bench pressing 500 pounds. He wasn't really thinking about the things he needed to do to beat me. He was more worried about how strong he was and how he looked. And I know those guys that are doing that are going to blow up. If I got my hands on him and made him work, he was going to blow up. There's no way he could keep the oxygen that all those muscles needed. And that's exactly how it went down. They did work on my boxing, my footwork. He's a southpaw. And if you stood around in front of him, he was very explosive, and he was blasting through everybody. Tank Abbott, I mean, everybody he faced, he just jab cross, and he just moved through everybody. So I was born a circle, make him chase me. And as he chased me, was my opportunity to change direction, close the distance, and get my hand on him. And I knew if I could make him wrestle me, I was going to wear him out and make him quit. And by the 8th minute, he broke. It sounded like a stick breaking in the arena. It was that. It wasn't how I didn't hit him that hard. It was just he could not breathe anymore. And melted. Yes, sir.
Did you, if you had to prioritize one or the other, would it be mental preparation or physical?
I think you have to do both. And if you forsake one over the other, then that's going to come back and bite you in the butt. They're both very, very important. We say it all the time. 90% of athletics is mental. But how much time do we spend on the mental part of the game? Very little. 10% if you're lucky for most people. And I feel like that was an advantage I had because I was exposed to a sports psychologist and a bunch of these terms and how to deal with the adversity of competition through the national team. And we had a sports psychologist that was assigned to us. I could call him anytime I wanted. With books and all kinds of stuff. We used to go through all these exercises and do all this stuff. Again, just like learning how to do an arm throw or a good high dive or a gut wrench or any of those other physical skills that I had to learn to compete, I also had to practice those mental skills all the time. The more I practiced them, the easier they were to turn on and tune in when it really counted, when the heat was on and that voice was really chattering. You would practice that on a regular basis, and you haven't done yourself a disservice. I think you have to work on both. And we have a tendency, it's easier to work on the things we're good at, and that tends to be the physical things. And it's harder to work on the glaring weaknesses, things both in the physical realm and in the psychological realm that we're not good at. It's never any fun. It's much easier to work on the things I'm good at. But I'm going to be better overall as both an athlete and a human if I take the time and knuckle on and work on the things that I'm not good at. And make them strengths. Then what? Then you're really going to be tough to deal with. What's that? Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a pleasure. Last one? All right. Yeah, David's amazing. And how ignorant I was. I walked into that read with David, and I had no idea who David was and all the accolades and awards, and he was a great guy. Rarely do you walk into a cold read like that in audition, and the director comes in. And not only did he come in, he said, "Hey man, let's do a couple extra scenes." I'm like, okay. I had no idea who he was. And you know, I got out of that read, and it went really well, and I called my agent, I'm like, hey, the read went well, and this guy David Mamet came in and did a couple extra scenes with me, and he about fell over. He's like, "You did what?" So David's a great guy. My roommate was fine. I put that in perspective right away. I got my first acting job was Cradle to the Grave. They wanted authentic cage fighters for the roles in that movie. Me, Chuck, and Tito all played cage fighters in that movie. So it was first time on set, kind of seeing behind the scenes and how this whole thing works. And I'm like, man, nobody's punching me in the face. I'm going to be fine. But, you know, walking out that tunnel and up those 4 steps into a cage sets the bar for getting nervous about a whole lot of anything. Pretty hot. You're going to have to go pretty big to make me uncomfortable. Yeah, the unit was a fun one too, and that's how I first met David, and what ultimately led me to get into the red belt role. I read for the lead, but Chiwetel Ejiofor actually got the lead role. I played Dylan Flynn in that movie. He was a retired fighter and now commentator, so not a big stretch. But it was fun. And it was great to work with David. I learned a lot from him. And again, humility is what it's all about. I start with humility, I act with humility, I end with humility. With humility, every single person I meet is better at something than I am. And with an open heart and an open mind and humility, I have a chance to learn from each and every one of you just by engaging and talking with you. So I start with humility, act with humility, end with humility in every single thing that I do. And that has been my model for life and allowed me to meet some amazing people and learn from some of the best people on the planet. And those are all tools that I put in my tool belt that are going to help me be successful at whatever I apply my mind to. So humility is the best thing you can bring to just about everyone. I think that's it. I appreciate that.